The Sunday hour that makes my whole week easier. Every Sunday morning, I sit at this table with a coffee for about an hour, and the first thing I do is open the fridge and look at what's actually in it. That's it. That's how it starts. Not a plan, not a list, I just go and look. What's in there that needs eating this week? What's about to turn? What I thought I had and don't. And I know how unremarkable that sounds. But that one look is what stops me standing in front of an open fridge on Wednesday at 6 o'clock with no idea what to make, which is the exact moment I used to give up and have toast, or order something. Because when you cook for one, the decision is the hard part, not the cooking. And I'd been making that decision from scratch, tired, 7 times a week. Now I make it once, on a Sunday, with a coffee, when I'm in a good mood. That's the whole trick. And it's the trick behind everything else in this hour. Hi, by the way. Come in, sit down. What I want to talk about today is a habit I fell into by accident about 4 years ago and now wouldn't give up for anything. 1 hour, once a week, and it has done more for how my life runs than any app, any planner, or any burst of motivation I've ever had. I'll walk you through exactly what I do in it, in order, and, this matters, what I deliberately don't do in it because that took me longer to learn. First 15 minutes, the food. So I look in the fridge, and then the freezer, and then the cupboard, roughly in that order. And I write down about 4 meals. Not 7, 4. I'll come back to why 4. Then I build the shopping list from those 4 meals, plus whatever staples are low. And the key thing is the list is short and it's specific, which means when I get to the shop I'm not wandering. I go in, I get what's on the paper, I come out. That alone has cut my bill noticeably, and it's cut the wandering around buying things that looked nice problem entirely. Now, why 4 meals and not 7? Because 7 never survives contact with real life. There's always a day you're out, a day you don't fancy it, a day something's left over. Plan 7, and by Thursday, the plan is broken and you abandon the whole thing. I did this for years and then blamed myself for it. 4 means there's slack in it. 4 means the plan still works on Friday. And if I'm cooking anyway, I make extra and portion it into the freezer while I'm at it. So the 4 meals quietly become 6 or 7 by the end of the week, without any extra effort. Next 15, the paper and the money. This is the bit everybody hates, and doing it once a week at a fixed time is the only reason I've ever managed to stay on top of it. I go through the post. Anything that came in during the week gets dealt with right there. Paid, scheduled, filed, or binned. Nothing gets put in a pile for later, because I now understand what that pile actually is. It isn't paper. It's a to-do list I never agreed to, sitting on the counter, quietly nagging at me every time I walk past. So there is no pile. Then I look at the bank. Just look. 5 minutes, checking nothing odd has happened. A subscription I forgot about. A charge I don't recognize. And I'll tell you why this matters, particularly when you live alone. There's no second person who might notice something's off. Nobody says, "Did you see this charge?" It's only you looking, so you have to actually look. And I check what's coming up. Anything due this week, anything big due this month. Which means I'm never ambushed. That's the whole word for what this hour is really about. If I'm honest, never being ambushed. Next 10, the week ahead. I look at the calendar and say the week out loud to myself, more or less. Tuesday, I've got the dentist. Thursday, somebody's coming about the gutters. Friday, nothing. Good. And then, this is the bit I think is genuinely useful. I look for anything that needs preparing, not just attending. The dentist is at 9, so that means an early start and I should get the car keys out the night before. The gutters man is coming, so I need to unlock the side gate. It's supposed to turn cold Thursday, so I'll get the winter coat down from the top of the cupboard now while I'm thinking about it, rather than at 7 on a dark Thursday morning. That's 5 minutes of thinking that removes about 4 small moments of stress from the week. and it's the closest thing I have to a superpower. Next 10, the house. One quick lap. Not cleaning, looking. Anything that needs a small repair. Anything running low that isn't food. The light bulbs, the batteries, the things you only notice when they've run out. Anything I've been stepping over and pretending not to see, which there always is, and then I do the 2-minute jobs right then, and I put the bigger ones on the list. That's the whole system. The point is that things get seen once a week, which means nothing has time to become a proper problem. The tap that started dripping gets noticed in week 1 instead of week 11. Once a month, this lap includes the boring maintenance, checking the smoke alarms, having a look at the furnace filter, that sort of thing. Once a year, it includes updating the page on my fridge with all my important information, but that's another video. Last 10, me. And this is the part I'd protect hardest, because it's the part that makes the other 50 minutes not feel like a chore. I make a second coffee, and I ask myself 2 questions. What's one thing I'm actually looking forward to this week? And is there anyone I should ring? The first one matters because a week with nothing to look forward to in it is a heavy week. And when you live alone, nobody is going to put something in the calendar for you. So if the week looks flat, I put something in it. A walk somewhere different, a film, coffee with someone. It doesn't have to be much, it just has to be there. The second question, about ringing someone, is one I added later, and it's probably the most valuable thing in the hour. Because friendships when you live alone drift silently. Nobody has a fight, nobody falls out. You just both get busy, and 6 months go by. So once a week I think of one person, and I ring them, or send a message. Just one. And that one small deliberate act has kept several friendships alive that would honestly have quietly faded otherwise. What I deliberately don't do in this hour. This is important, and it's what took me longest to learn. I don't clean. This isn't a cleaning hour. The moment it becomes a cleaning hour, it becomes something I dread, and then I skip it, and then the whole system falls down. I don't do the big projects, the taxes, the garage, the sorting out of the spare room. Those are separate. If this hour becomes where big scary things live, I'll avoid it. And I don't do it perfectly. I want to say this plainly, because I think it's why the habit has actually lasted 4 years when nothing else I've tried has. Some Sundays I do 20 minutes and call it done. Some Sundays I skip it entirely and nothing terrible happens. Some Sundays I get halfway through and the phone rings. It's not a discipline, it's just a thing I usually do, and usually turns out to be entirely enough. Why Sunday, and why an hour? Sunday, because it's the natural edge between 2 weeks, and because the shops are open Monday. But honestly, any fixed day works. I know someone who does hers on Friday afternoons and says it means she starts the weekend with everything clear, which sounds rather better than mine, and an hour because it's short enough not to feel like a sacrifice and long enough to actually cover everything. If I'd set myself a whole morning, I'd never have started. An hour with a coffee is not a chore, it's just a slightly productive sit-down. The thing this actually does. Here's what I've come to understand about why this works, and it isn't really about organization. When you live alone, everything is on you. Every decision, every responsibility, every noticing. And it isn't the individual tasks that wear you out, it's the carrying. It's holding the whole running list of your life in your head at all times, all week, because there's nobody else holding any of it. That's what makes Tuesday feel exhausting when nothing happened on Tuesday. This hour is where I put it all down. Once a week, I take everything out of my head and put it onto a table. The food, the money, the calendar, the house, the people. I deal with what's dealable and I write down the rest. And then for 6 days I'm not carrying it because I know it's been looked at and I know I'll look at it again on Sunday. That's it. That's the entire value. Not efficiency, unburdening. My weeks aren't more productive than they used to be, they're just so much lighter. So that's my hour. Fridge and food, paper and money, the week ahead, a lap of the house, and 10 minutes for me. If you want to try it, Don't try to do all of it. Pick two. I'd say the food and the calendar, and do those two next Sunday with a coffee, and see how the week goes. That's how mine started. The rest of it accumulated over about a year, one piece at a time, because each thing I added made the week noticeably better. Now I'd love to hear yours. Do you have a version of this? A day? A routine? An hour where you get your life back under control? Or is there something you'd put in the hour that I've not thought of? Comments below. I read every one, and honestly a couple of the best parts of my hour came from you lot. And if you like this kind of practical, honest talk about living on your own, you're very welcome here. Give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to stay, and I'll be right here next Sunday. Take good care of yourself. Bye for now.